So we're hanging out in the museum section of the Legal Ride shop today. We're here to talk about helmets and some of our recommendations and suggestions. So here in Nevada, we're required to wear helmets, DOT compliant helmets. That's just the standard. There's a second standard, a Snell standard, and there's a European standard. For the street, Nevada requires DOT helmets. So there are also what are known as novelty helmets that have no government rating. Some of them have a fake DOT sticker attached. Cops are pretty attuned to that. They recognize the quality and features of a DOT helmet. More important than getting a ticket or the cops is protecting your head. When you're shopping for a helmet, there's a number of features to consider. There's really no crappy helmets anymore. They're all good. It's just a matter of how good or what features you're looking for. I tend to run more track-orientated helmets, which has you in a sort of a different position. Your head's down a little bit more, which affects the shape of the helmet, the aerodynamics of the helmet, and even the position and size of the eye port or the opening that you look out. The first thing to really be honest with yourself about is what style of riding are you doing? Are you on a Harley? Are you on a sport bike? Are you at the track, or are you cruising around? Because that's going to really dictate the proper helmet for you. There's different styles of helmets. There's full face helmets, which I prefer. There's 3/4 helmets where there's an opening in the front of your face, but the rest of your head is protected. And then there's half helmets, which offer, in my opinion, almost no protection, but people love them because there's a lot of airflow and a sense of freedom. There's the novelty helmets we talked about, which have even less protection. I'm going to talk about some of the problems, pros and cons of those different styles. And then there's modular helmets where you can press a button and turn it from a full face helmet into a 3/4 style helmet. For our discussions, and based on our experience of handling hundreds of motorcycle accident cases a year, we've seen a lot of injuries and problems from half-shell helmets, and we're all adults and we can make our own decisions. A lot of facial injuries. A bigger problem is that the helmet's retained to your head by a strap. Sometimes that helmet rotates back and offers almost no protection for your face and your forehead, or worse, it rotates forward, comes off your head, and you have now no protection. So some of the features to look for, of course, is does it fit your head? So every helmet manufacturer has different sizes of helmets, and the shells are actually different sizes, and then they change the composition of the inner liners to accommodate all the different sizes within the range that shell is designed to accommodate. Different size shells, different shape shells. One of the features that we're looking for is a smooth helmet, and these appendages like the spoilers and vents and whatnot, they need to be a breakaway type design because you don't want any sort of sharp edges that are going to catch your head and rotate your head, and those can cause serious injuries to your neck. So most of these sort of appendages are breakaway. They're stuck on with a pretty good tape, but they're designed to break away from the helmet once it hits the ground. So first thing is a shell that fits your overall head shape. Like I have a sort of a funny shaped head. Not all helmets fit me very well. So you should try on a few different helmets and make sure that it fits your face first. And then once the helmet's on, we're looking for a good fit where the pads are squishing your cheeks just a little bit. Not so much that it will cause a headache or cause discomfort or pain, but enough that it doesn't rotate, especially when you start having wind pressing against it and the helmet buffeting around. You want it to be good and snug. So a really good way to check, besides how it feels, is how the pads squish your cheeks up. So beyond that, some of the features that you get as you move up the ladder in terms of price and features is ventilation. Very important, especially here in Las Vegas, where it can get pretty hot in the summertime. I liked this helmet because it had a tremendous amount of ventilation. So it has 2 vents down here on the chin, another vent on the forehead, another vent on the scalp, and it all vents out around these exit vents on the back of the helmet. Some of the consistent things that we see in accident cases. There's actually a stripe chart, I call it. I think it originated out of Germany, where they studied thousands of helmets from motorcycle accidents to see where the impacts were. And the most predominant area impact is down here in the right-hand side for whatever reason, in the lower face area, an area that's not protected by a half-shell helmet. We've seen a lot of accident cases where the chin bar actually breaks from a strike. A lot of those have been fatal, but we've seen some failures of the helmet here in the front, lots of failures, including this particular model. We've seen 3 or 4 where the chin bar actually broke on one side or the other of the eye port and resulted in some pretty devastating injuries to the rider and even fatalities. A better quality helmet, the course, it costs more, but it's hard to put a price on your safety and your head. Once a helmet's been used, and I mean used by hitting the ground, every manufacturer recommends that you no longer use that helmet. Although it may appear okay from the outside, maybe it's scuffed, maybe it's not, the way a helmet works dictates that you don't use it again after an accident. And basically, a helmet doesn't protect your head from the knock. It protects your brain from the inside by slowing down the deceleration of your brain. And what I mean by that is the brain's sort of floating inside your skull, and when you are in an accident and you strike your head, first the helmet hits the ground, then your head hits the ground inside the helmet, and then your brain hits the inside of your skull. And so the idea of the different foams that line these helmets is to slow down that deceleration. Instead of hitting a wall and stopping, you hit the foam and slow down. It slows down that deceleration. The idea being that it prevents your brain from bouncing around inside your skull. That's a very simplistic way to look at it. It prevents these shearing forces from causing brain injuries by, again, slowing down the deceleration of the brain inside your skull. So once a helmet has been used, that impact translates into heat, absorbing the energy, translates into heat, changes the composition of the foam inside your head. You can't see it unless you cut through it, and then you can see a physical change in the foam. But nobody's going to be cutting through a helmet to test it. Just get a new helmet if you've hit your head on the ground.